Question 1. Title searches and examinations. Which of the following is not a typical reason for a title defect that can prevent a clear transfer of ownership? A. A missing heir not accounted for in the property records. B. An unrecorded deed in the chain of title. C. A mortgage that was paid off but not properly recorded. D. A properly filed easement across a portion of the property. Answer: D. A properly filed easement across a portion of the property. Explanation: a properly filed easement does not represent a title defect because it is a valid legal right that allows another party to use a portion of the property for a specific purpose, e.g., a utility company's right to access land. However, a missing heir, an unrecorded deed, B. And an unrecorded mortgage release, C. can cause significant title defects. These issues create uncertainty in the ownership history and can lead to legal disputes requiring corrective action such as a quiet title action. Relevant rule: title defects are typically issues that cloud ownership or create uncertainty about who has legitimate legal ownership. Unrecorded deeds and claims by heirs not accounted for in estate proceedings are common problems in real estate, and they can be uncovered during a thorough title search. Question 2. Title insurance policies, scenario-based. Mr. Davis is purchasing a residential property and is about to close on the transaction. The seller's title shows no recent transactions, and the title company is preparing the final documents. However, during the title search, the examiner discovers a mechanic's lien filed by a contractor who claims that the previous owner failed to pay for repairs done on the home 2 years ago. The lien was never resolved or removed. What should Mr. Davis do before closing the transaction to protect his interests considering the mechanic's lien? A. Proceed with closing and rely on his title insurance to resolve any future disputes related to the lien. B. Request that the lien be resolved or bonded off before closing to ensure he receives clear title. C. Pay off the lien himself at closing and then seek reimbursement from the seller after the fact. D. Delay the closing indefinitely until the lien holder voluntarily releases the lien. Answer: B. Request that the lien be resolved or bonded off before closing to ensure he receives clear title. Explanation: a mechanic's lien is a legal claim against the property by a contractor or service provider for unpaid work. If unresolved, it remains attached to the property even after a new owner takes possession. Mr. Davis should ensure the lien is cleared either through payment, bonding off, or other legal methods before closing. Relying on title insurance to resolve the issue A can lead to delays and legal complications. Paying the lien himself, C. transfers the seller's responsibility onto Mr. Davis, which is not advisable. Delaying indefinitely, D. could cause complications with the transaction and is unnecessary if proper procedures are followed. Relevant rule: under the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RISPA, it's critical to resolve any liens or encumbrances before transferring ownership, ensuring that the buyer receives clear title. Title insurance policies exclude coverage for known issues unless they are cleared or specifically covered through endorsements. Question 3. Real property law and legal concepts. Which of the following best describes the difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common when it comes to property ownership? A. In joint tenancy, ownership passes to the other co-owners automatically upon death, whereas in tenancy in common, ownership does not pass automatically. B. In joint tenancy, each owner can independently sell their share, while in tenancy in common, all owners must agree to sell. C. Joint tenancy allows unequal ownership shares, while tenancy in common requires equal shares among co-owners. D. Joint tenancy is used only for married couples, while tenancy in common is used for unrelated co-owners. Answer: A. In joint tenancy, ownership passes to the other co-owners automatically upon death, whereas in tenancy in common, ownership does not pass automatically. Explanation: joint tenancy includes the right of survivorship, meaning that if one co-owner dies, their share automatically transfers to the surviving co-owners. In contrast, tenancy in common allows each owner's share to be passed to heirs or designated beneficiaries through at will or other legal means, rather than automatically passing to the other co-owners. Joint tenancy also requires equal ownership shares, while tenancy in common allows for unequal shares. Additionally, joint tenancy can apply to any group of co-owners, not just married couples, contrary to option D. Relevant rule: Idaho real property law recognizes both joint tenancy and tenancy in common, with the key difference being the right of survivorship in joint tenancy. These distinctions are crucial in estate planning and the transfer of property rights. Question 4. Title insurance policies. Which of the following is not typically covered by a standard title insurance policy in Idaho? A. Defects or liens listed in public records. B. Fraud or forgery affecting the title. C. Zoning law violations. D. Undisclosed heirs. Answer: C. Zoning law violations. Explanation: A standard title insurance policy typically covers issues such as defects or liens that are part of public records, fraud, forgery, or undisclosed errors, which may affect the legal title of the property. However, zoning law violations are typically excluded from coverage under a standard title policy. Title insurance focuses on the history of ownership and ensuring clear title, while zoning laws regulate land use and are outside the scope of title protection. Relevant rule. In Idaho, as in most states, title insurance policies exclude coverage for governmental regulations like zoning laws, which are considered public knowledge and not defects in title. Question 5. Closing and settlement procedures. During the closing process, which of the following documents is primarily used in Idaho to disclose all costs and settlement charges to the buyer and seller? A. Closing protection letter, CPL. B. ALT, a settlement statement. C. HUD-1 settlement statement. D. Escrow agreement. Answer B. ALT, a settlement statement. Explanation. In Idaho, the ALT, a settlement statement, is used to disclose all financial aspects of a real estate transaction to both the buyer and seller. It provides a detailed breakdown of all costs, including loan fees, title insurance fees, and closing costs. The HUD-1 Form C is rarely used in residential transactions today, having been replaced by other disclosure forms due to regulations like TRID, TILA Integrated Disclosure. A closing protection letter, CPLA, is used to protect parties from certain escrow issues, but it does not detail costs. Relevant rule. The use of the ALT, a settlement statement, complies with Idaho's real estate closing procedures, ensuring transparency for all parties involved in a transaction. Question 6. Real property law and legal concepts. In Idaho, if multiple individuals own property under tenancy in common, which of the following rights do they not automatically possess? A. The right to sell their interest without the consent of other co-owners. B. The right of survivorship upon the death of a co-owner. C. The right to pass their interest to heirs through a will. D. The right to possess the entire property along with co-owners. Answer B. The right of survivorship upon the death of a co-owner. Explanation. In a tenancy in common, co-owners do not have the right of survivorship. When one co-owner dies, their interest in the property passes to their heirs, not the surviving co-owners. This is a key difference between tenancy in common and joint tenancy. The other rights listed, such as the ability to sell their share without consent and the right to leave their share to heirs, are typical of tenancy in common ownership. Relevant rule. Idaho property law follows general principles regarding tenancy in common, where each co-owner can control their share of the property and pass it to heirs, unlike joint tenancy, which has the right of survivorship. Question 7. Claims handling in title insurance. Scenario-based. Ines Thompson recently purchased a property in Idaho, and a few months after closing, she discovers that there is a boundary dispute with her neighbor. The neighbor claims that part of Ms. Thompson's newly fenced yard is on their land based on an old survey. Ms. Thompson holds a standard title insurance policy. What is the most appropriate course of action for Ms. Thompson to take regarding the boundary dispute? A. Resolve the issue privately with the neighbor without involving her title insurer. B. File a claim with her title insurance company, as the policy covers boundary disputes. C. Hire a new surveyor to determine the correct boundary and sue the neighbor for encroachment. D. Wait for the neighbor to take legal action before deciding on any steps. Answer B. File a claim with her title insurance company, as the policy covers boundary disputes. Explanation. Boundary disputes are a common type of title insurance claim. Ms. Thompson should file a claim with her title insurance company, which can investigate the issue, possibly defend against the neighbor's claim, or provide compensation if the boundary issue affects the property's title. Handling the issue privately. A. Waiting for legal action. D. May result in further complications without professional support, while getting a new survey. C. Might help clarify the boundary. It's essential to involve the title insurer, as they are responsible for defending the insured's title. Relevant rule. Title insurance policies typically cover boundary disputes if they affect the title's validity or the owner's rights, protecting the insured from unforeseen claims. Question 8. Real property law and legal concepts. Which of the following would not constitute a valid legal description of land in Idaho? A. A description using metes and bounds. B. A description using lot and block numbers from a recorded subdivision plat. C. A vague description referring to landmarks without specific measurements. D. A description using government rectangular survey methods. Answer: C. A vague description referring to landmarks without specific measurements. Explanation: a valid legal description of land must be precise and measurable, typically using methods like metes and bounds, lot and block, or government survey systems. A vague description that merely references landmarks without specific measurements is not sufficient for legal purposes, as it cannot accurately define property boundaries. Legal descriptions must be clear enough to locate the property and establish its boundaries in the public record. Relevant rule: in Idaho, real estate transactions require accurate and specific legal descriptions of property to ensure clarity in ownership and boundaries, preventing disputes. Question 9. Title commitments. In Idaho, which part of the title commitment specifies the property's legal description, the insured parties, and the insurance amount? A. Schedule A. B. Schedule B. C. Exclusions section. D. Endorsement section. Answer: A. Schedule A. Explanation: Schedule A title commitment contains the most critical information, including the property's legal description, the names of the insured parties, and the amount of insurance coverage. Schedule B lists exceptions and exclusions from coverage. The exclusions and endorsements sections are not relevant to the basic identification and description of the property. Relevant rule: Idaho title commitments follow the same structure as most title commitments nationwide, where Schedule it provides essential details about the property and the insurance policy. Question 10. Title insurance regulations and compliance. Under RESPA Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, which of the following practices is prohibited in Idaho? A. A title company paying referral fees to real estate agents for recommending their services. B. Charging separate fees for title insurance and closing services. C. Disclosing all settlement costs to buyers and sellers. D. Requiring the use of a specific title insurance company as a condition for loan approval. Answer: A. A title company paying referral fees to real estate agents for recommending their services. Explanation: RESPA prohibits the payment of referral fees or kickbacks to real estate agents, brokers, or other parties for steering clients to a particular title company. This practice is considered illegal because it can create conflicts of interest and increase costs for consumers. Charging separate fees. B. And disclosing settlement costs. C. A standard and compliant practices requiring the use of a specific title insurer. D. Is also prohibited under certain circumstances unless it's clearly disclosed to the consumer. Relevant rule: Idaho abides by federal RESPA regulations, which aim to ensure fair practices in real estate transactions and protect consumers from hidden fees and conflicts of interest. Question 11. Easements and rights of way. In Idaho, which of the following statements about easements is correct? A. Easements automatically expire after 10 years if not used. B. An easement allows someone to possess the land permanently. C. Easements can be granted by the owner of the land for a specific purpose. D. Easements can be removed without consent from the easement holder. Answer: C. Easements can be granted by the owner of the land for a specific purpose. Explanation: Easements are a legal right to use someone else's land for a specific purpose, such as utility access or roadways, but they do not grant possession of the land. Easements are typically recorded in public records and do not expire unless specified or released by the easement holder. Removal without consent. D. Would violate the rights of the easement holder. Relevant rule: Idaho law upholds the traditional definition of easements, which allows limited use of land for specific purposes without transferring ownership or permanent possession. Question 12. Zoning laws and property usage. Which of the following is typically regulated by local zoning ordinances in Idaho? A. The sale price of residential homes. B. Building height restrictions. C. Title insurance requirements. D. Terms of property loans. Answer: B. Building height restrictions. Explanation: Local zoning ordinances in Idaho commonly regulate the use of land, including restrictions on building heights, lot sizes, setbacks, and land use types, residential, commercial, etc. The sale price of homes. A. Title insurance requirements. C. And terms of property loans. D. Are not typically under the jurisdiction of zoning laws. A relevant rule: Idaho municipalities implement zoning laws to ensure orderly development and maintain the character of neighborhoods and commercial areas, including regulating building heights and land use. Question 13. Joint tenancy and tenancy in common. Which of the following best describes a key feature of joint tenancy in Idaho? A. Co-owners can pass their interest to heirs upon death. B. Co-owners have unequal shares in the property. C. Upon the death of a co-owner, their share passes to the surviving co-owners. D. Each Kuana can sell their share without the consent of the others. Answer C. Upon the death of a Kuana, their share passes to the surviving Kuanas. Explanation. One of the defining characteristics of joint tenancy is the right of survivorship, meaning that when a joint tenant dies, their share automatically transfers to the surviving Kuanas. In contrast, tenancy in common A allows Kuanas to pass their interest to heirs. Joint tenants typically hold equal shares, and selling an interest D usually requires agreement among all Kuanas. A relevant rule: Idaho recognizes both joint tenancy and tenancy in common, but the right of survivorship is unique to joint tenancy. Question 14. Title insurance claims. In Idaho, a title insurance policyholder discovers a previously unknown lien on their property that was filed before they purchased it. What is the most appropriate action for the policyholder? A. Pay the lien and notify the title insurer later. B. File a claim with the title insurance company. C. Ignore the lien since it should not affect their ownership. D. Attempt to negotiate with the lien holder directly. Answer B. File a claim with the title insurance company. Explanation. Title insurance protects policyholders against undisclosed liens or defects that existed before they acquired the property. In this case, the policyholder should immediately file a claim with their title insurance company, which is responsible for addressing covered issues such as unknown liens. Paying the lien directly or ignoring it could result in financial loss. A relevant rule: Idaho follows general title insurance principles, which require the insurer to handle undisclosed liens or defects discovered after the purchase. Question 15. Real estate contracts. Which of the following elements is not required for a valid real estate contract in Idaho? A. Offer and acceptance. B. Legal consideration. C. Earnest money deposit. D. Competent parties. Answer C. Earnest money deposit. Explanation. An earnest money deposit, while commonly part of real estate transactions, is not a legal requirement for a valid contract. A valid real estate contract in Idaho must include offer and acceptance, legal consideration, something of value, and involve competent parties. The earnest money deposit is typically used as a good faith gesture, but the contract remains valid without it. Relevant rule: Idaho contract law aligns with standard contract principles, where the essential elements are offer, acceptance, consideration, and competent parties. Question 16. Foreclosure process in Idaho. Which of the following is true regarding foreclosure procedures in Idaho? A. Idaho uses a judicial foreclosure process exclusively. B. Non-judicial foreclosures are allowed if a power of sale cause exists. C. Idaho law requires all foreclosures to be resolved in court. D. Lenders can foreclose without any notice to the borrower. Answer B. Non-judicial foreclosures are allowed if a power of sale cause exists. Explanation. Idaho allows both judicial and non-judicial foreclosures, with non-judicial foreclosures permitted if a power of sale cause is included in the deed of trust. This process allows the lender to sell the property without going to court, provided they follow the proper notice and timeline requirements. Judicial foreclosures involve court proceedings, but they are not the only option. Relevant rule: Idaho foreclosure law allows for non-judicial foreclosure under certain conditions, streamlining the process when the necessary causes are included in the deed of trust. Question 17. Property tax exemptions. Which Idaho homeowner would be eligible for the homeowner's exemption on their property taxes? A. The homeowner who uses the property solely for commercial purposes. B. A homeowner who has a vacation property in Idaho but lives out of state. C. A homeowner who uses the property as their primary residence. D. A homeowner who rents out the property full-time. Answer C. A homeowner who uses the property as their primary residence. Explanation. The homeowner's exemption in Idaho is available to homeowners who use their property as their primary residence. This exemption reduces the taxable value of the home, providing relief on property taxes. It does not apply to commercial properties, vacation homes, or rental properties. Relevant rule: Idaho provides a homeowner's exemption that benefits residents who occupy the property as their primary home, lowering the amount of property tax they owe. Question 18. Idaho Real Estate Commission. What is one of the primary functions of the Idaho Real Estate Commission? A. Setting interest rates for real estate loans. B. Licensing and regulating real estate professionals. C. Enforcing federal real estate laws in Idaho. D. Determining property values for tax purposes. Answer B. Licensing and regulating real estate professionals. Explanation. The Idaho Real Estate Commission (IAC) is responsible for licensing and regulating real estate professionals in the state, ensuring that they comply with state laws and ethical standards. It oversees real estate education, examinations, and disciplinary actions. It does not set interest rates, enforce federal laws, C, or determine property values, D, as those tasks fall under different jurisdictions. Relevant rule. The IIC ensures that real estate professionals in Idaho meet legal and professional standards, helping maintain the integrity of the industry. Question 19. Water rights in Idaho. In Idaho, water rights are generally governed by the doctrine of prior appropriation, which means A. Water rights are based on ownership of the land adjacent to the water source. B. The first person to divert water and use it beneficially has superior rights. C. All landowners have equal access to water sources. D. Water rights can never be transferred or sold. Answer. B. The first person to divert water and use it beneficially has superior rights. Explanation. Idaho follows the doctrine of prior appropriation, where water rights are granted to the person who first diverts water from a source and puts it to beneficial use. This system means that early users have priority over later users, even if they are located farther from the water source. Water rights can be transferred under certain conditions, contrary to D. Relevant rule. Idaho's water laws prioritize users who first beneficially use the water, a key principle in managing the state's water resources. Question 20. Landlord-tenant law in Idaho. Which of the following is a right or responsibility of landlords under Idaho's landlord-tenant laws? A. Landlords can legally withhold all of a tenant's security deposit without explanation. B. Landlords must provide at least 48 hours notice before entering a tenant's dwelling. C. Landlords are not required to maintain rental properties in a habitable condition. D. Landlords can evict tenants without providing any notice for unpaid rent. Answer. B. Landlords must provide at least 48 hours notice before entering a tenant's dwelling. Explanation. Idaho law requires landlords to provide tenants with at least 48 hours notice before entering a rental unit, except in cases of emergency. This protects tenants' privacy while allowing landlords to inspect the property or make repairs. Landlords are also required to maintain the property in a habitable condition, C, and must provide notice before evicting tenants for unpaid rent, D. Withholding a security deposit without explanation is illegal. Landlords must provide an itemized list of deductions. Relevant rule. Idaho's residential landlord-tenant law outlines both tenant rights and landlord obligations, including notice requirements and maintenance responsibilities. Question 21. Property descriptions. Which of the following methods of property description is most likely to be used in a legal document for real estate transactions in Idaho? A. Parcel number. B. General location. C. Metes and bounds. D. Tax assessor's description. Answer. C. Metes and bounds. Explanation. The metes and bounds method is a detailed description of property boundaries using physical line marks and directions. It is commonly used in legal documents to precisely define the location and extent of a property. While parcel numbers and tax assessors' descriptions are useful for identification, they do not provide the same detailed boundary information required for legal purposes. General location, B, lacks the precision needed in legal descriptions. Relevant rule. Idaho law and real estate practices often rely on the metes and bounds system for accurate property descriptions in legal transactions and documents. Question 22. Title insurance coverage. Which of the following is typically covered under an extended title insurance policy but not covered under a standard title insurance policy? A. Unrecorded liens. B. Forgery of documents. C. Encroachments. D. Errors in public records. Answer. C. Encroachments. Explanation. An extended title insurance policy often covers additional risks, such as encroachments, which are not typically covered under a standard policy. Encroachments involve a situation where a structure or improvement extends onto a neighboring property. Standard policies generally cover recorded issues like unrecorded liens, say forgery, B, and errors in public records, D, but extended policies offer broader protection. Relevant rule. Extended coverage policies offer additional protection beyond standard policies, including risks related to encroachments and other issues that may not be recorded. Question 23. Real property rights. Which of the following is considered a type of property right in Idaho? A. Easement. B. Leasehold. C. Option. D. All of the above. Answer. D. All of the above. Explanation. In Idaho, easements, leaseholds, and options are all types of property rights. Easements provide limited use of another person's land. Leaseholds refer to temporary possession of property under lease agreements, and options grant the right to purchase property at a future date. Each represents a different aspect of property rights and interests. Relevant rule: Idaho property law recognizes various rights and interests in real estate, including easements, leaseholds, and options, each serving different purposes and conditions. Question 24. Chain of title. What is the primary purpose of maintaining a chain of title for a property? A. To ensure the property complies with zoning laws. B. To verify the legal ownership history of the property. C. To determine the current market value of the property. D. To establish the property's tax liabilities. Answer: B. To verify the legal ownership history of the property. Explanation: the chain of title is crucial for verifying the legal ownership history of a property. It provides a chronological list of past owners and transactions, helping to identify any potential issues or claims affecting ownership. Zoning compliance: A. Market value. C. And tax liabilities. D. Are separate considerations not directly related to the chain of title. Relevant rule: title searches and examinations involve reviewing the chain of title to confirm that the property's ownership history is clear and legally valid. Question 25. Adverse possession. Under Idaho law, which of the following is not a requirement for a claim of adverse possession? A. Continuous and uninterrupted use for a specific period. B. Use of the property with the owner's permission. C. Open and notorious possession. D. Exclusive possession of the property. Answer: B. Use of the property with the owner's permission. Explanation: adverse possession requires the use of property to be continuous, open, and notorious, and without the property owner's permission. Using the property with the owner's permission B. negates the adverse nature of the claim, as it does not meet the requirement for adverse possession. Exclusive possession D. and uninterrupted use A. are essential elements. Relevant rule: Idaho law stipulates that adverse possession involves using the property in a manner that is adverse to the interests of the true owner without their permission and meeting other legal criteria. Question 26. Title insurance underwriting. What is one of the key factors that a title insurance underwriter considers when assessing a property in Idaho? A. The market value of the property. B. The personal financial history of the property owner. C. The presence of any defects or issues in the title. D. The cost of homeowners insurance. Answer: C. The presence of any defects or issues in the title. Explanation: title insurance underwriters focus on identifying and evaluating defects or issues in the title, such as liens, encumbrances, or unresolved legal claims. Market value A and personal financial history B are not direct concerns for title insurance underwriting. Homeowners insurance cost D is unrelated to title underwriting. Relevant rule: title underwriting involves assessing the risks associated with the title and ensuring that any potential issues are addressed before issuing a policy. Question 27. Property taxes in Idaho. What is a common reason for a property to be eligible for a property tax exemption in Idaho? A. The property is used exclusively for business purposes. B. The property is located in a high-value area. C. The property is owned by a non-profit organization. D. The property has been recently purchased. Answer: C. The property is owned by a non-profit organization. Explanation: property owned by a non-profit organization may qualify for tax exemptions in Idaho, especially if the property is used for charitable, educational, or religious purposes. Properties used for business A or located in high-value areas B do not typically qualify for exemptions. Recent purchase D does not affect exemption eligibility. Relevant rule: Idaho tax law provides exemptions for properties used by non-profit organizations for specific purposes, reducing the tax burden for qualifying entities. Question 20. Title commitments. What does Schedule B of a title commitment typically list? A. The legal description of the property. B. The parties involved in the transaction. C. Exceptions and exclusions from coverage. D. The requirements to issue the title policy. Answer: C. Exceptions and exclusions from coverage. Explanation: Schedule B of a title commitment details the exceptions and exclusions from coverage, specifying what is not covered by the title insurance policy. Scheduler provides the legal description A and parties involved B, while the requirements for issuing the policy are typically included in a different part of the commitment. Relevant rule: title commitments outline coverage details and exclusions, with Schedule B listing specific exceptions that will not be covered by the title insurance policy. Question 29. Escrow services. What is the primary function of an escrow service in a real estate transaction in Idaho? A. To determine the property's market value. B. To handle the disbursement of funds and documents. C. To provide legal representation for both parties. D. To inspect the property for defects. Answer: B. To handle the disbursement of funds and documents. Explanation: escrow services manage the disbursement of funds and documents between the buyer and seller, ensuring that all terms of the sale are met before finalizing the transaction. They do not determine property value. A. Provide legal representation. C. Or inspect the property. D. Which are handled by other professionals. Relevant rule: escrow services are crucial in ensuring that all contractual obligations are fulfilled before the transaction is completed and funds are transferred. Question 30. Quiet title action in Idaho. What is the purpose of a quiet title action? A. To transfer ownership of the property to a new buyer. B. To resolve disputes over property boundaries. C. To clear any legal claims or defects against the property's title. D. To determine the property's market value. Answer: C. To clear any legal claims or defects against the property's title. Explanation: a quiet title action is a judicial procedure used to clear any legal claims or defects against a property's title, ensuring that the title is clear and free of disputes. The purpose is to establish clear ownership and resolve issues such as unresolved liens, claims from previous owners, or heirs in public records. This action does not transfer ownership, which is handled through a sale or deed transfer. While it can sometimes help clarify boundary disputes, its primary goal is to clear title issues rather than directly resolving boundary disputes. Additionally, it does not determine the property's market value, which is assessed through appraisal processes. A relevant rule: in Idaho, a quiet title action is an essential legal tool for property owners to address and resolve any encumbrances or legal claims on their title, ensuring that the ownership is legally unchallenged and uncontested.